Welcome to the Great on Purpose podcast. My name is Alfonzo Alexander and I am your host. In each episode of this podcast, you will have the opportunity to get to meet leaders from various backgrounds, various industries who are really just cool people doing great things on purpose. They are pursuing their purpose and pursuing greatness and walking in lockstep as they do it. You'll understand what we mean more about that as you get into the podcast. Our goal here is to help you understand that being great is not just something that happens. It is something that has to be done on purpose and in alignment with your purpose. Therefore, this is the Great on Purpose podcast. Enjoy.
Today's episode, Lead by Intent, features Alfonzo Alexander's conversation with Duane Hughes, District Sales Manager for Eli Lilly and founder of his nonprofit, Are You Feel? Take a listen.
All right. Hello, this is Alfonzo Alexander, and you are listening to our podcast that is called Great on Purpose. The Great on Purpose podcast is intended to help you hear from, see, understand what it takes and why it is so important to be purposeful about success, to be purposeful about greatness and the journey to get there. We bring guests to you that will help you understand levels of greatness that they have achieved and what they did to really be great on purpose. So today's guest is a friend of mine that I've known for so long, literally my whole life. His name is Duane Hughes, and Duane has proven to be an outstanding person in his field. And I'll let him say hello to you and introduce himself to you in his own fashion. Duane, say hello to everybody.
Well, hello, everyone. I appreciate you having me on, Alfonzo. It's a pleasure to be here. Like Alfonso said, we've known each other for a long time. So I guess we'll get into a little bit of that in a few minutes. I'll talk a little bit about my career and some of the things that I've done as well.
Excellent. So, before we get into our history, tell everybody kind of something about you that they won't see on the bio. What's a little bit about you that's an interesting fact?
A couple of things. I say one is that I am a closet writer. So I've got a number of writings over the years, everything, things from poetry to, different stories, my own life story I'm working on as well. So that would be the one thing that I think people would never guess is that I do a lot of writing.
I didn't know that myself. And again, I've known you for quite some time. As a matter of fact, let's just go on and tell everybody how we know each other and what our connection is.
Well, I would say, the beginning of our relationship, there is not one. Is to me, is just something that is and has always been. So Alfonzo is not only my first cousin, he is my first friend. Like we've known each other. When I say it just is, I don't have a memory of a time when Alfonzo was not in existence. So at the beginning of my memories is Alfonzo. As a matter of fact, I don't know if you have seen this picture, or maybe your mother has it. I know my mother has a picture of the two of us in our grandmother's driveway out of that old house out there in the country, a 4-room house with a tin roof and no running water and no bathrooms that we lived in. You and I out there in, cut off jean shorts and no shirts. And we were probably like 2 and 4 or something like that. So that's how far we go back.
Wow, I haven't seen that. That's amazing. Next time I'm in Baltimore, I need to go see your mom so I can visit with her and get a chance to see that.
Right.
So that's awesome. Yeah. So if you haven't figured it out yet, Duane and I are first cousins, and really more like brothers. In fact, we consider each other brothers, but our mothers are actually sisters. But as he said, we have forever been lockstep in lockstep in terms of being best friends and first friends. In fact, even over the years, have just kind of watched things that we've done, whether it be in academics, in sports, in our careers, and been, great supports for each other. So Duane, I really appreciate you being here today. So I know you've got your career things and some other things that you have going on. You mentioned some of the artistic things that you're doing. Why don't you just kind of give everybody a snapshot of what's the most exciting thing you got working right now?
A couple of things I'd say. One, this pod is about leadership, so we'll talk some about that. But one of the things that I am involved in is I have an organization called Are You Phil? Are You Phil is RUPHIL. It's an acronym, stands for Are You Playing Hurt in Life? If you're interested in it, it basically is an organization that offers support to survivors of childhood trauma, which I am a survivor of myself. So there's an organization that I lead. My day job, I manage a roughly $25 million business for a Fortune 500 company. Lead a team in a sales division across Alabama, Georgia, and South Carolina. And then, I've got some real estate, and I do, a couple of other things. I have a couple of entrepreneurial projects that'll be coming up shortly as well.
Excellent. Well, as you can see, it's in our bloodline. We like to do a lot of things and get involved in a variety of things. And I think Duane makes some good choices and things he gets involved in, except his sports teams. He tends to pick the wrong teams to support. But, we can talk about that a little bit later. Today, we want to talk about leadership. So Duane, as a leader, you have a track record of things, and I've seen you grow over the years as a leader. What do you attribute to your growth as a leader?
First of all, I say intent. Having the intent on being a leader, I think, is very important, because it's easy not to lead, right? It's easy not to be a leader. I say that, but there's also, for some people who are natural leaders, I think it's hard for them not to lead. But if you're somebody who is not a natural leader, where it just doesn't just flow out of you, you've got to have some intent on being a leader, intent on developing yourself as a leader, and then figuring out what are your platforms. So I don't know if you've ever read the book The Mentor Leader by Tony Dungy. And it's based around servant leadership. And part of servant leadership believes that everyone has a platform that they are a leader in, right? So you got to figure out, and I believe that, you got to figure out what are your platforms, what are those areas of strength for you? What are those areas, what's your superpower? What do people come to you for? People around you, what do they come to you for? Those are the areas that you need to figure out. How can I lead in these areas? So you're working from an area of strength. What are those platforms? So that's kind of one of the things that I think. And then, it also depends on what kind of leadership you want. What kind of leader you want to be. Are you, if you're leading people, then you have to actually lead people. At some point, you've got to actually get in and lead people and fail forward. It's going to be some times where things just didn't go the way you thought they were going to go, and you fail. Yeah. But you learn from that interaction, right? And the only way to do that is to actually lead people. And I've had the pleasure of leading people, and I've had some kind of tough decisions I've had to make. I've had to hire, I've had to fire, I've had to discipline, And sometimes those things, those are the things that expand you as a leader, but you have to experience those things, that adversity, in order to experience that growth.
That's awesome, man. And I'll tell you what's so encouraging. The first thing that you mentioned in these attributes is being intentional about your leadership. And I think that is amazing, because that intentionality is really what we mean when we're talking about being great on purpose. You have to purposefully pursue that level of greatness. And you also mentioned something that's very important to me, which is dealing with making sure that you are not afraid to make the tough decisions. And making those tough decisions are critical for leaders, because the people that you lead look for you to be able to do that. So what would you say are secrets to success in leadership?
Continuing to show up. I think that's a big one. I know a man that was an Olympian. Went to, I think, the 92 Olympics, I believe, is in Barcelona, I believe. So he went to Barcelona and competed. And I was just asking him about his experience and how he became an Olympian and that kind of thing. And what he told me was that I kept showing up. And I kept showing up, and other people kept falling off, and I kept showing up. And he ended up, he underestimates how good he was, but he, he continued to show up. Other people continued to give up, and he kept getting better and better and rising to the top. So I think continuing to show up and having a plan is a big piece of the puzzle. And then the other piece to this, I'd say, is spend about 20% of your time planning and about 80% of your time executing. We in life, a lot of times we fall into, it's a saying kind of, in the country saying, I'm fixing to do this, I'm fixing to do that, right? And we spend a lot of time fixing to do something. And I know that's one of the struggles I have, is that, I spend a lot of time planning, spend a ton of time planning when I need to really just go do it, right? Yeah. So, I think one of the secrets to success is, the most successful people aren't always the smartest people, but they are the people who can organize and execute, and they execute quickly. You talked about making decisions. That's, one of the things that, in terms of being a leader, I think is very important, is how quickly do you make a decision? So it's not only making those tough decisions, how quickly are you going to make those decisions? I've had, lots of instances. I know when I first started leading people, one of the things that we do these leadership surveys, and one of the things I got dinged on was making decisions with speed, right? I like to think about stuff. I like to gather some information and think about it a little bit, gather some more information, think about it a little bit, and then make a decision. But all that time, your people are waiting on you to make a decision. And then, probably 80% of the time, the decision you make, it's probably the one you had your first instinct to go with in the first place. Mm-hmm. So instead of wasting all that time gathering information and thinking, just go on to make the decision. Let's run, let's execute. And even if we fail, we've decreased our time, at least in that execution, enough to where we can still course correct and achieve our goals.
Yeah. Yeah, they sometimes they refer to that as paralysis by analysis, where you're just analyzing so much that you don't get enough done or get it done in a timely enough fashion. So how has, what you learn about planning and decision making and your growth as a leader, how has that shaped what you're doing with Are You Feel?
Well, it's kind of one and the same. Like it's almost like the Are You Feel and my work with Are You Feel actually has enhanced me as a leader. In order for me to do the work with Are You Feel, I've had to be revealing of myself. So that's part of the podcast concept that I'm working on is talking about my childhood trauma, the things that I went through. How did I overcome those things and been able to survive and thrive in life? And the only way to do that is to pull all the secrets, the dark little secrets in the closet, in the corner, pull them out in the light and shine light on them. And sometimes that's very hard, especially, you think about, for us as men, one of the things about men, we're supposed to be big, strong, that kind of thing. And that's what I thought for years. And that's how I operated for years. But really, I was just hiding. Mm-hmm. And how Are You Feel came about was from me going through this journey of being revealing of myself, the things that I had went through. And now every time I do a talk and, talk about my experience as a kid coming up, it was like I was living two lives. One, I was kind of a star athlete, but on the other side, I was this abused little boy with a secret. And I had to mesh those together as an adult in order to be able to just function properly as an adult. So once I started to do that, then this drive came to lead people and to help people. Mm-hmm. And that's how Are You Feel came about.
Got it. You mentioned having two lives that you were living, and I know you and I talked once before, and you shared with me that, sports was really kind of a refuge and an escape for you. And I know a lot of times driven leaders, we're driven so much that we need something to be somewhat of a refuge and an escape for us, and people as human beings, we find things to do that. Some of those are positive. Some of those may be negative, like drugs and alcohol, but you use sports to kind of be that for you. Talk a little bit about how sports was that refuge and distraction for you, and how that's impacted you even today as a leader.
So, I think about coaches. When I think about my sports career, had great success in high school, played ball in college. And I think about, the number of men and some women even throughout my life playing sports. I started playing sports when I was, first or second grade. And from then on up, I was playing sports year round, literally. Mm-hmm. Sports became a refuge in terms of giving me a place to go. Initially giving me a place to go where I could get away from the stuff that was happening at home. And to be clear, because I mentioned my mother earlier, so I want to be clear. I was sexually abused for years at the hands of my stepfather growing up. I didn't have a male role model, a proper male role model at home. And sports gave me this viewpoint to these, other men that I didn't have at home. So it was initially a little foreign to me. And then, as I grew up and got older, I had more and more coaches, more and more men that were interacting with me and leading me and mentoring me. and giving me opportunities. And that, kind of fostered my growth and gave me some balance in my growing up. The other thing that you and I haven't talked very much about this, or we haven't talked about it for years. The other thing that had an influence on me was my grandfather, our grandfather. And you being a couple years younger than me, you probably have less memories of him than I. But I don't remember lessons from him in terms of him talking to me and telling me this or telling me that. I just remember spending time with him. I remember going on some of the first Lidl electric jobs. So being with him gave me some sense of manhood that was outside of my stepfather. Sure. And in sports, just the experiences over the years, even just being able to bond with teammates. I've got teammates a couple of teammates from high school I'm still in touch with, a bunch of teammates from college that I'm still in touch with. It just gave me this kind of a sense of brotherhood and manhood, I think, that came out to be fairly balanced. As we know, we can have some toxic masculinity surrounding sports at times. But I think my experiences with the coaches that I had growing up and their families, that's why I say women as well, had influence that, helped me to have a balanced life and to be very productive in life.
Sure. And now you're taking that productivity and helping to inspire others, whether it's through Are You Feel, to help them to see how to come through a traumatic situation, or it's people that are within the organization where you lead, a large portion of business. And as a leader, you are touching and inspiring people. And so I'm curious as to what you would say if you had a new young person that is coming into your sales organization or is looking to be an entrepreneur, and you had to give them some advice on growth and projection in terms of where they want to be. What would that advice be?
Start with the end in mind.
Yeah, for sure. So
where do you want to go? Where are we going? We can't do the map unless we know where we're going, right? You open up the Waze app or Google Maps or whatever. You don't say I'm turning right on Main Street and then turning left on First Street, right? You don't do that first. You put the destination in first, and then the map is drawn, right?
Yeah.
So let's figure out where we're going. Okay, now we know where we're going. Who are the people along the way on that route, on that map? Who are the people we know that live along the way to our destination? Mm-hmm. Let's reach out to those folks. Those are our mentors. Those are the people we need to reach out to, grab them, put them in place as mentors, determine, let's spend some time with them. Let's figure out which ones that we mesh with, which ones we don't, because not everybody meshes together, right? Yeah. So let's find the ones that fit, the ones that challenge us, the ones that stretch us, and let's form formal relationships, mentoring relationships with them. Now, in addition to that, so we've got these people along the way. They're going to help us along to get to that destination. Now, in addition to that, who are you mentoring? Mm-hmm. And if you're not mentoring anybody, why aren't you mentoring anybody?
Yeah.
So let's get that in place as well. So let's start leading now. Let's don't wait until we get to the destination to start leading. Let's start leading now. So like I said earlier, everybody's got a platform. You got to figure out what it is. Yeah. But there's some way in order for you to lead. The other thing that I would add to, that list of mentors and mentees, and, within that is the stuff like, have your own personal board of directors. And, I know lots of people have heard that concept before, but really do those things. Those things really work. And as you look at that list of people, your mentors, your mentees, your personal board of directors, what do they look like? Does everybody look the same? Does everybody look like you? Does everybody think like you? If they do, then you're not doing it right. You just scrap the whole thing, start over. Scrap it and start over. You need to have that, diversity of thought within that group of people to be able to, develop you fully.
Sure. I couldn't agree with you more. Thanks for sharing that. So, me, one of the things that I'm always looking to do is to try to help somebody be better tomorrow than they are today. So I'm going to ask you this question, and I want to know really sincerely the answer to it. And that is, what can I do to help you? How can I help you today?
Well, I need you to give me a date you're going to come on my podcast. Need that first.
All right.
And then, what we've always done is bounce ideas off of each other. I want us to continue to do that. We just need to be more formal about it. I think that's the area that we can help each other on. So I think I see you as executing, as a person who has that high degree of execution. And that helps me. So I like to talk to you and hear what you're executing, and that motivates me to execute as well.
Sure. Consider it done. No problem at all. For those folks out here listening, Duane, if there's one last nugget of wisdom that you could share with them, here's 30 seconds for you to be able to do that, man. Take as long as you want, though.
I appreciate it. So I'll talk. I'm gonna talk for about 15 minutes here. No, I think in terms of nuggets, is just going back to the intentionality piece. Really, just be intentional about what you want to do in life, and it's never too late, right? You can always change direction, but have a direction that you're going in. I think that is the most important thing, is to understand that direction, understand what the goal is, and chase that goal. Be a grinder, chase the goal. And if the goal has to change at some point, fine, the goal changes. So you made the goal, let's push move the goalpost a little bit further out, and just keep progressing. But I think no matter how old you are, you don't stop growing and expanding and getting better. I just, I don't think you are supposed to reach a point in life where you're like, I'm good.
Yeah.
I don't think you're supposed to reach that point. I think you're supposed to keep pushing and going and going and going. And that is for me anyway, that's where I can find my sweet spot. That's where I can find my happiness. And I feel like when people get stagnant, they stop, they start doing the exact same thing every day. They become unmotivated. And pretty soon it's like, what do I got to live for? Right? It's a struggle every day.
Yeah.
It's a struggle because you're doing the same thing every day.
That's right.
So, challenge yourself to keep learning, keep expanding, and keep doing more. What are the new ideas that you can execute on in your life?
That's great, man. That's great. Challenge yourself. Be intentional. Be a lifelong growth advocate for your own self, personal growth. I mean, those are all signs of being great on purpose. And particularly when you think about continuous learning and continuous growth and development, it's part of what we talk about. Greatness is not a one time you got it and you're done. It's along a spectrum. It's a journey. It's not that one destination. So continue to strive, because once you hit one mark, then you'll see other marks if you're really striving towards greatness. So Duane, man, it's been great. I really appreciate you being on here and sharing this with us, and consider it done, man. You let me know when you want me on your podcast and we'll be on there. But I got to make sure though, when we do that, that you give me a chance to talk to you about, and I mean in a therapeutic fashion, I want to talk to you about your choices in sports teams, because you're not very good at that. You're great in many other areas, but that's a downfall for you. So please, please, please give me a chance to talk with you about that, because I think I can help you be better tomorrow in your selection than you are today.
Yeah, we may be able to talk about that. My Cowboys did lose to the Super Bowl champs, the last second field goal last week. So yeah, we can talk about that. My cable got cut off, so I haven't had ESPN or anything. How did the Titans do over the weekend?
They didn't play.
That's your team, right?
Yeah, they didn't play.
Oh yeah, they didn't. They did.
Right.
What was the score
play
to the game they didn't play in?
Yeah, pardon me?
What was the score to the game they didn't play in?
You mean the replacement folks that came out there and played?
Yes,
I'm not sure.
Those people.
Yeah, I can't remember. Since I found out that the real team wasn't playing, I didn't even watch. But I'll find out and we can talk about that when we're on your podcast.
Yeah, that sounds good. It seems like maybe they might be having some challenges as well. So maybe we can help each other.
Okay, that sounds good. All right, well, thank you, man. Thank you for tuning in to the Great on Purpose podcast. I am Alfonzo Alexander. Please be sure to follow me on Instagram, LinkedIn, and Facebook so that you can continue to hear stories and get information that can help inspire you to be great on purpose.